www.norealwebsiteatall.w.com thingy. Flashing Blade Live. Where are we? Series 1, number 4, I think. Something like that. Thank you, Brian. Oh, it does this every fucking time.
To fight for what you want, for all that you believe. It's right to fight for what we want, to live the way we please. As long as we have done our best, then no one can do more.
Bonjour, bonsoir, voici le bienvenu, je m'appelle Siobhan, and do you know what? It's cold, wet and miserable. It's my plucky girl assistant, Brian.
Yay, I'm a companion.
How's your ankle, love?
Ankle's been fine. It's the hand that's bothering me.
Okay, I know what, with you being a plucky girl assistant, you have weak ankles. Hello to Tim. Hello, Master Dark. Lovely to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Tuning in, I'm so old. And with us... making a grand return for 2 weeks only, for the moment anyway. Hopefully next year he'll be back at some stage. It is Dr. Augustus Julius Sinister the Fifth.
Greetings, everybody. It's very good to be back.
It is good to be back, isn't it? I have to admit, I'm glad I'm doing this again.
Regenerated.
Yes, now, as you all know, you've all heard... Dr. Sinister's avatar speaking, or will have done if you've gone to Sounds of Thunder. Remember, there's a free download there of Dr. Sinister's Christmas message to the world. Yes, look out. Tim Jury has just told you, Brian, to look out for the slope of moderate inconvenience.
Oh, no, not that.
I don't know if Brian's seen The Five Doctors, Tim.
Anyway. I haven't seen that, but I have seen a concrete slab face first. It's quite painful.
Oh, well, that explains your looks anyway. How have you been, Andrew?
Busy, kind of here and there, making some extensive renovations to the underground lair.
Oh.
Starting the occasional war. We had quite a big diplomatic triumph this week.
Oh, do tell.
It's in the news. You've probably heard about it. Just basically undermining Western democracy and making the world a much more unstable and uncivilized and unhappy place.
Do you mean this is like the American State Department recognizing Wakanda? Which they've done.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was a joke.
No, it's not. They actually...
It's real.
They thought Wakanda was real. Now, as it is, God. Since Trump has been in power, I've been tweeting him every now and again, asking him to do something about the situation in Latveria. Which long-term fans of the Flashing Blade will know is where we got our soap from as the action happens.
Yes.
And, he hasn't done anything about Latveria at the moment. By the way, congratulations on the way you managed to sort out the British election. Well done, Sinister. That was very well done.
That's quite all right. I mean, it's quite a lot of work, But yeah, all in all, we're very pleased with ourselves. And I gave everybody 5 minutes off, unpaid.
What you pay them? Well, how come I've not been paid?
Wait, they make money?
You don't get paid.
They don't get paid.
I don't get paid for this.
They don't get paid in money. I have to clear this up. They get paid in oxygen.
Okay.
So they had 5 minutes unpaid. I don't know why, but some of them haven't come back to work.
Can't possibly imagine why that would be. Dear me. Anyway, I'm really glad you're here. Brian, obviously I'm glad you're here. What's been happening this week? Is anything, well, apart from the sickening British election, which if you go back onto YouTube, you will see right at the start of the last Blade, after the coming, starting soon thing, which I put up just to give you time to get here. I did do a little thing, basically saying all you got to do now, I've auto-focused to death, dear bod. We've done a little thing. Hang on, I've got to try and find a way of doing this. Video capture device. Okay, properties. Here we go. It'll go over here in a second. You watch. Pop. Pop. And camera control. Zoom. It's not on auto. So why did it auto zoom? I'm now really confused. You see, that's the trouble with doing it like this. Doing it audio, I didn't have a problem with because I could edit it when I could be bothered and do this, that, and the other. Video's completely out of my league. I hate to say it, it is. Anyway, shall we do what we're here for?
Oh,
Be snarky?
Being snarky, I'm always snarky. Okay, and now from the worlds of BBC Television's Doctor Who, it's Doctor Who. Do you know what? I say it every week. I bloody love that piece of music. Anyway, hello. Yes, it's Doctor Who time. And, well, it's Christmas, isn't it? So we need to... Well, I thought we'd listen to a nice Christmassy Big Finish. Oh, good God, Adam's here. I'm in my nightie and dressing gown and PJs and whatever because it's bloody cold and I want to be all snuggly and lovely. So... The fifth Doctor Who and his plucky girl assistant Nyssa land on this planet, or rather, in this planet. They're underground, and the place looks an awful lot like 1950s London, but not quite. And the sky is very dark overhead. Anyway, they're wandering around, and there's a general feeling of decay and whatever. And then they run into a policeman who's been cybernetically enhanced, as has his horse. Ladies and gentlemen, for Christmas, we're reviewing Spare Parts.
What a lovely, heartwarming tale this is.
It's a Christmas tale.
It
Or
is.
should I say, heart-paddling tale?
A heart-paddling tale, yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Man Sinister. I'm going to come straight out. You see, I don't think... And somebody else will be able to tell me, I'm sure, from the stream, if I've ever reviewed Spare Parts myself, either on the Flashing Blade or on the WhoCast, and I know I didn't do it on Staggering Stories. So there's a chance this is the first time I'm actually reviewing it. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what Sin and Brian have to say about this. It's one of the jewels in Big Finisher's crown, as far as I'm concerned. However, I'm not the important person here. Guys, do you want to start us off? Can we let our guest go first?
Of course.
Yes. Dr. Sinister, the stage is yours.
Oh, hello. Thank
Hello.
you very much.
That's all right, don't mention it.
So, yes, I gave this one a re-listen the other day. I was stuck in an airport for a couple of hours, and I managed to fill that couple of hours out very enjoyably by re-listening to Spare Parts.
Very cheerfully.
It has this... It's got a very general sense of gloom at the beginning. The city's very quiet, and there's not many people around, and it turns out the people that are around aren't really holy people anymore because the race is slowly dying out, and they bump into a rather unsavory character who has a tendency to deal in
Body parts.
human organs. Basically it's Genesis of the Cybermen, isn't it, really?
And the thing is, I think it's earned that title by being that good. As far as I'm concerned, there's a very good chance it's the best Cyberman story, full stop. Though I will say the Doctor Falls and World Enough and Time run very close.
And the other thing is, it's I presume we don't have a problem with spoilers here, do we?
Not with Spare Parts, no. The spoiler limitations has run out.
I mean, it is like 17 years old, so...
Jesus Christ, really?
Yeah, 2002.
Wow.
The interesting thing I find out about it is there's a very I hate to, and I don't mean this word as a pun, there's a very logical reason for the Cybermen coming to be.
Yes.
And that is basically they've managed to kind of excavate their way up to the surface, and they're very near a nebula, which is obviously throwing lots of random energy their way, and basically it's almost impossible to be on the surface of the planet without going insane.
Yeah.
So not only do they need to kind of augment their bodies in order to survive generally, but also to, go up onto the surface and do what they're doing. We'll come to that in a minute. But they also have to remove elements of their emotions and their consciousness in order to actually survive mentally up there.
What we need to point out is that the process has not been perfected just yet.
It has not been perfected,
No.
and there's Sorry, Brian, carry on.
No, it has not. I agree. The post-human aspect of it really needs to be emphasized.
Yeah, there's a very high failure rate, and lots of things are going wrong. Unfortunately, something drops into their lap, which is quite handy.
It's a stick of celery attached to a man.
Indeed.
A man
Indeed.
who's not a man, as Terence Dicks would have it.
Yeah. So basically, on the surface of the planet, they are constructing a propulsion system to try and steer the planet. But you then end up with competing requirements because there's a power failure. The city has to be kept alive if the people are going to live.
They've got to try and keep the outside atmosphere out, basically.
They've got to try and keep the outside. They've got to try and steer the planet away from the Cherry Bowl Nebula. And then also we have the survival of the committee.
The committee, yes.
Who appear to be a bunch of swollen heads with shrunken bodies plugged into some kind of... I don't know exactly what they're plugged into, but they're not human anymore either.
I have to admit, I did find them a little bit difficult to understand at times because they were using the Tomb and Moonbase voice, but it was over-modulated deliberately to make the difference between the committee and the Cyberman Tomb voices.
Well,
at the end, they start when whatever happens to them.
Yeah, so this is the bit
you can understand them clearly.
Yeah, at the start, the committee is, I think, about 20 individuals, and they all have their own opinions, and they all kind of converse amongst each other. But there's a certain bit which kind of sends a bit of a chill down the spine when they realise that, arguing is getting nowhere, and they need to kind of converge, and they become one voice.
Yep.
That's quite creepy.
It is. The atmosphere in this play, Nick Briggs has done a superb job, and the music is perfect for it. It's some of the most unsettling yet beautiful music Big Finish have done.
Yeah. And going back to the Christmas theme, there is a Christmas tree.
Yes.
It's not called a Christmas tree, but there is a tree. And can you remember what the different things on the tree symbolised?
No, I can't. Go on. Remind me.
So you have the tree, which represents the forest that used to live on the surface of the planet.
Oh.
You have the tinsel, which represents the winding course of the planet through the cosmos.
That's brilliant.
You have the baubles, which are the worlds that they pass. And then you have the star on the top, which is the star that they left behind when they broke orbit.
You probably gather from now, this has been written by somebody quite good. It's Mark Platt.
Yes.
And I love the convention he had, and we've referenced it earlier. But Cyberman, it's basically everybody is called man, and their title is what they are. So Doctor Man, Sister Man.
And there's a reference to it, an Electri-Man. Not the doctor, the lady doctor woman. She says, "Oh, I'm not an Electri-Man." At one point, I thought, yes, this is a nice idea. It's again, the name Cyberman is kind of like a logical development from what they call themselves in their everyday jobs.
Exactly. It's a lovely piece of world building and gives us just that little bit more of a glimpse of the origins of the... It's a rounded origin, if that's what I mean. We've seen how physically they become the Cybermen. How did they get their name? Because they're cyber...
And then we have the Cybermats, who are basically pests.
Yes. But who created them? That's the thing. What were they created for?
I know. I'm not... That bit, I'm assuming they were some kind of... Because don't forget, we have an electronic bird as well as a pet. So I'm assuming they were pets originally, and they've kind of got out of hand.
Gone rogue. Oh dear, Cybermats will advance.
That they can spy on you.
Yeah.
They have...
That's right. The committee has their own model of Cybermat. Yeah. So
Davison, again, I've always found that Davison's Doctor on Big Finish is not the fifth Doctor that we knew. He's a lot grumpier for a start.
He's there's a definite difference in his voice.
But that's just it. He's playing the character to match his voice now, because he understands he can't do the high pitched, squeaky, breathless stuff. It's changed it slightly.
Until you get used to his voice in this, if you've just been watching some Fifth Doctor on disc or whatever, or download or whatever, and you put this on, he sounds like he's fed up.
Oh God, not another Doctor Who. No, can't be that. Right then, Brian, what did you make of it now that Sinister said everything?
Sorry.
No, it's cool.
Fine.
It's cool. Saves us a
leaves,
job.
Leaves less words that I can mangle. No, I found that the family dynamic, because the Doctor, of course, meets natives and becomes involved in their lives.
The Hartley family.
The Hartley family. The family dynamic there really sets the tone for it.
Mm-hmm.
You have the father, who's very protective after losing his wife. You have the daughter. And you have the son, who's jealous of the daughter.
Yeah. Because it's a mark of honor to be chosen.
Yeah.
As a
Cyberman, and if Yvonne, the daughter, gets chosen, leading to a heartbreaking scene where her conversion hasn't worked properly, and she goes home, and she's trying to.
Well,
the real personality is trying to come out, but it just cannot connect. If that makes sense.
When they see the Cybermen on the TV, they assume it's a suit.
Well, yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you?
They're like, oh, she won't like wearing that, and they kind of remark that how tall she's been made, but it's not a suit.
No, it's not.
No, they've cut away the human bits.
Now, of course, Mark Platt got a credit on The Age of Steel. The second part of the Rise and Cyberman, Age of Steel, two-parter, Russell T Davies, David Tennant's first year. I'm filling all this in for people who don't know. Because they riffed on the scene with Yvonne at home trying to remember things. The bit in The Age of Steel where the Doctor disconnects the emotional inhibitor of one of the Cybermen and suddenly the real person comes through. That is taken essentially from Spare Parts. Spare Parts is one I would love to see them make. It really is.
Spare Parts is vastly superior to The Age of Steel.
Oh, God, yes. But it's a different sort of Doctor Who, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, they have more time with this. They're building the world and the atmosphere through audio rather than visuals. And...
Brian mentioned a minute ago that the family have lost the mother. Not only did they lose her, they sold her. They sold her for parts.
Things build up. The Doctor obviously realizes that this is Mondas, the Earth's fabled legendary twin planet, which I think is upside down. I can't remember.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be a mirror reflection of it, but wasn't the model upside down in the 10th planet? I can't remember. And then, of course, on top of that, there's Adric. This is... Now, they've recently done a Cyberman play where the subject of Adric comes to the fore, mainly because Janet Fielding's in there. This is just with Nyssa, Sarah Sutton, and it's mentioned... And the Doctor has toughened himself up when it's a Cyberman, sort of thing, because of it. But it's not, there's not a lot played on with that. But it's there.
The Doctor and Nyssa have a little falling out at one point over the topic of Adric when she wants to go back and rescue the family. They've got back to the TARDIS, basically, and the Doctor's like, right, we're going now. And she's, no, I'm going to stay. And they have a little bit of an argument about it. So it is dealt with, but like you say, it's not lingered upon.
No.
The Doctor realizes this is a fixed point in time.
But the thing is...
He naturally wants to save people.
Well, that's just it. he throws everything out of the window. Initially, it's a case of shit. This is Mondas. We've got to get out of here. This is, well, we didn't have fixed points back then. It's not something he could interfere with. And then he decides, sod it. I'm going to try and stop him.
Yeah, well, he
And
initially
it's a tragedy because he becomes part of it.
Yeah, he initially tries to get the people themselves, because basically, in the opening episode, the government is robbing the graveyard, to find bones, presumably to replace, limbs and things. And the Doctor sets off the church bells to try and get the people to realise what's going on, in a hope that they will overturn the situation.
That's
themselves.
a gripping scene. That really is.
Yeah. Obviously, it doesn't work, and he has to get more kind of directly involved. But the interesting thing that Brian says about the fixed point in time, I don't disagree that it's a fixed point in time. But the interesting thing I found was that in the recent Capaldi episode with the Cybermen, where it was referenced that Cybermen are kind of inevitable in any civilization.
Yes.
That there's
any human civilization
for the Cybermen. Yeah, they so basically back in the 80s there was David Banks' book about kind of trying to put together Mondas and Telos and Planet 14 and all that kind of stuff.
That was Marinus.
Well, actually, I actually prefer the idea in a way that it's kind of almost an inevitability, because then you can have multiple origins for the Cybermen. They don't all have to be from the same precise origin point. One might assume that if different groups of Cybermen were to meet up, they would, logically decide to work together. But, so yes, fixed point in time. But now that we've seen a little bit more in Doctor Who itself, it's kind of, there could be other races of Cybermen out there anyway.
It might explain the difference in their appearance over the years.
I think I like the fact that they do kind of upgrade themselves, but yes, there could definitely be something in that. Yes.
I'm just thinking it's yeah. I mean, obviously you've got the whole upgrading thing, but otherwise it's too much to ask that any planet of humanoids that turns themselves into Cybermen look like the Cybermen.
Yeah.
Unless it's a specific thing. Sorry, Brian, go on.
Whole. I'm sorry, they would have to join with the whole of the Cybermen. Sort of like to just take from another franchise, the Borg Collective.
Yeah.
I see. Yes. The only thing I can think of is that there is some process in the whole Cyberman makeup, which means you've got to have handles coming out of your head, no matter where you've originated from.
I have assumed since probably Age of Steel kind of days that is something to do with the emotional inhibitor hardware.
Well, you say that. Look at the Dr. Falls. Sorry, World Enough and Time, or whichever one it is. The first one, where the Doctor bloke who's going to operate on Bill says it's going to hurt like hell, but look, and he holds up the handles. You won't care after that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you're right there.
Yeah, it's probably designed to inhibit the emotional centers of the brain. Make them coldly logical.
No, you'd just be too busy worried about what a tit you look walking around with handles on your head.
Are my handles straight?
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Oh, you've got black handles now. Congratulations.
Are they big?
Having said that,
why have you got your brain on show? Sorry.
The cyber controller in original Doctor Who doesn't have handles. Now, does this mean that he's allowed a degree of emotion, or that he's beyond all that?
Well, come on, chat.
Well, it's
interactive.
Possible that the cyber controller is the amalgamation of the council.
The committee, a representation of it, or
Ooh,
all
good thinking.
Together.
Good.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that a lot as well.
We should write a paper on this.
Yes, you should. Adam says he has a bigger dome, so maybe it's all built in.
I just assumed that was because he had a bigger brain. But
Or
you could be
multiple.
right.
Yeah, that was the whole
He's
point.
more he's more streamlined. He's suitable for going into water.
What the cyber torpedo?
Yeah.
Okay, what are you
Is the
doing? We're
Cyberman
firing the
0.7
controller at him.
waterproof?
Oh dear.
Isn't there
They got
isn't
rid of
there a
the
Dalek
phone jack.
isn't there a Dalek comic strip where they go underwater, or a Dalek design that was designed to go underwater? Maybe the Cybermen decide, hey, we need one of those.
There is a picture, I believe, in the Dalek handbook, the BBC version, of a torpedo Dalek. Oh dear. Oh, very dear.
It's an arms race, you see.
Oh, really? Really?
Plunger race. The plunger race.
Oh dear. So overall, I consider the spare parts to be one of the jewels in Big Finish's crown. I don't think I've heard another one of their audios that has affected me as much as this one has, and there've been many which get to you. They really have. Daughter of the Gods, as we reviewed on the first show. I think it was the first show. I can't remember. Yes, it was, because the second show we were supposed to look at the other one and we both forgot to listen to it. Yeah. So that's my view on it. It's superlative. Guys, round up. What do you think?
It's deceptively long, but it's definitely worth the listen.
It's as somebody said earlier, I think it might have been Siobhan, it's a tragedy.
It is.
And even more so by the kind of double ending of the story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Which we're not going to give away just in case there's anybody who hasn't heard it. Hello, Nessie. Nice to see you, sweetheart. Thank you for joining in. Yeah, it's definitely one of the best. Now we're going to see if we can do this properly this week. This is going to be fun. Right. This music means that the Doctor Who section is going to be closing. It'll be closing soon. We're not entirely certain. Why has it gone like that again? The autofocus is on. Sinister, it's going wrong!
We have to say mind the gap if we're going to close doors and things.
Interesting thing about that. Embankment, I don't know if you saw this.
Have a different voice.
It has a different voice because it all got updated to this new voice. But the wife of the guy who did the Mind the Gap, well, he died, and so she used to enjoy going to the tube and hearing his voice all the time. So bless them, they turned round and reinstated his voice on Embankment Station for her. I think that's lovely.
That's nice.
It is nice. It's the sort of thing, we really like.
It's
Anyway.
heartwarming for Christmas.
And that was Doctor Who. I get it wrong every fucking week. Seriously. Tim, yes, it is a great end theme. It's by Alistair Locke, if you need to know. I think he's done 3 versions of it. The original one was for an early 90s Panopticon. It's what Madonna's Open Your Heart, and obviously the Doctor Who theme. And then he got asked to remix it a couple of times for later Panopticons. It's, nice piece of fun. Oh, you should hear his UFO. It's lovely. Talking of Alistair Locke, Alistair Locke plays Dr. Sinister.
It's not a role that's given out lightly.
It's not, no. Better Crick explained. Some of you won't know. And Tim, we're still waiting for your review, please. The Sounds of Thunder annual from www.soundsofthunder.co.uk. had 2 Doctor Sinister stories on it, and Alistair plays Doctor Sinister. Not quite like you. It's a bit more. There's a bit more Kenneth Williams.
A bit more Nida.
Well, I was going to get into that. You see, the original idea was to ask Peter Miles to play the character. Unfortunately, Peter had died. A couple of 2-3 years ago, I went to see a play Alistair was in. The Jasmine Garden? Something like that. And he played this, not an inquisitor, an investigator from the church. I was just trying to avoid Spanish Inquisition jokes, that's all.
No one expects those.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Oh, God, the pain.
Relish the pain.
Yes, it's
Use
mine.
the
It's my pain.
pain. Use it.
So, and I watched him, and he was basically playing it as Peter Miles, as Nida. And I sort of said to him afterwards, I said, that's brilliant. He says, oh, for whatever the hell, don't tell him. But of course, having seen that, he was the obvious person to ask to play Dr. Sinister. And I mean, fair dues, he's made the role his own, if you don't mind me saying, Sinister.
It's fine. I'm not hurt.
Look, he's your Metatron. He's your spokesman clone.
Indeed.
Yeah.
He does a fantastic job of it, and I must admit I do listen to them every now and then, even though I wrote them, and it makes me laugh every time.
I have to admit, I had a whale of a time doing those, because it's tiny cast. You've got 2 leads. You've got Dr. Sinister, and you've got Derek, his assistant, who's played by Helen Sterling. Don't ask. And I occasionally pop up. I play every other character, but there's not many of them. We were going to explain why they all sound alike in future stories. It's all there. But it's great. We would be in Alistair's studio, just the 3 of us giggling like loonies, me trying desperately to direct it. And I'm going to cherish those times, the 3 of us recording the Sinisters, because they're so funny. And the second play on the CD, The Wachu of Death.
He nearly killed himself.
He did. For those of you who have heard it, or if you haven't, there's an awful lot of sneezing and coughing coming from Sinister. And Alistair did it not in one take, but in one session. And remarkable how he was able to do it. It was wow. And just after that, he came down with a cold. There's an irony. Yeah, I know. But if you want to listen to Alistair, like I say, go to soundsofthunder.co.uk. There's a free Dr. Sinister download you can listen to. You don't have to pay anything. That's what free means. Yes, plenty of plugs.
And here's the thing. I mean, we could do with making more of these, and I've got like 6 more written.
I know you have, and somehow we'll make them. I mean, I'm still hoping we'll get to ArmadaCon next year, and we'll do the special live play.
The one that I wrote for that one.
Yeah, because I'd like to do that.
If people spend money, we can make more.
Oh, shameless! Even I'm not that bad. Jesus.
I am totally evil.
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that. You've decided that after the election result.
Oh yeah. I've gone full evil.
Yeah, well, you'll get away with it. I think Brian's dead.
No, Brian's here. Just something that you've been saying that has brought to mind that there's a London Podcast Festival coming up.
Oh, interesting. I'll look into that. Are you going to pop over here to go and do it then?
No.
Oh.
No. That would require 2 things I do not have: vacation days and money.
I think that just demonstrates a lack of commitment.
I think you're right, quite frankly.
Well,
now, look, you're either in this podcast or you're out, young man.
I am totally committed to the podcast.
You do need to be committed.
And
you are one in a long line of people who've had to put up with me. Don't worry. Yeah, Poor old
That
Bob.
explains the certifiable.
I do have a question though for Brian.
It's 42, love.
Brian, are you the Adric of this podcast or the Turlo?
Oh, to be
I
fair, Bob
really
was
don't
always
wanna
our
die
Adric.
in the spaceship.
Bob was always our Adric. I'm sorry, he was.
So
I'm
does
gonna
it-
steal a bit of New Who and go with I'm the Rory.
So you die a lot.
I die a lot and then come back, usually as
Okay.
an Auton. And
So you're-
Roman.
With a bit of Mickey thrown in, maybe.
A little
Yeah, but-
bit of Mickey Mouse.
You're the tin dog, aren't you, Brian? You are. You're the tin dog.
I'm the bloody tin dog.
Who's the Yaz of the podcast? We're not entirely certain, Adam. Quite simply because we haven't concentrated on Yaz much this year. Anyway, moving on. Come on, that was a good one. At least one LOL in chat. Jesus.
We'll need a yes.
Are we talking lack of character development here?
That's my answer. I really enjoyed last year's Doctor Who. I did. It was different. Needs work, but yeah. So there we go. That is it. We've been going for about 35 minutes, which ain't bad considering. Next week, we're going to be discussing the joy, or is it, because we're not going to give the game away here, of the War Master new set, Anti-Genesis. I've listened to it. In fact, to give you a hint, I listened to it in one evening. And it was getting later and later and later, and I couldn't stop myself from listening to the next story.
How long is it?
It's 4 1-hour CDs, I believe. So 4 hours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. That's why I gave us some time to listen to it, you know. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to reviewing that one. All I'm going to ask, I'm going to leave you this question, basically. What the hell are the Anti-Genesis codes? We just don't know. Say goodbye, Brian.
Goodbye, Brian.
Say goodbye, Dr. Sinister.
Goodbye, Brian.
Crunch.
It's just nice. It's just nice that your Muppet finally talks properly without you needing to stick your hand up him.
Yeah, I've still got my hand up him.
Really, have you?
For the laughs.
Oh,
Just
right.
For the laughs, really.
Okay, fair enough. Guys, we'll be back. We will be back next Saturday at 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, because we're here at the home of time. And yeah, we will be discussing Anti-Genesis, and as it will be the just before the first episode of the new series, we're going to be going through what we hope we're going to get this year, this following year. So hopefully we'll see you there. Thank you for tuning in now, and thank you for taking part. Feel free to give us a like, yeah? No, not a like, a follow or whatever it is. It doesn't cost you any money, but it'll let you know when we're going live and this, that, and the other. Tom Torek says, Merry Festivus. What do you say, Dr. Sinister?
Merry Sinistermus, obviously.
Obviously. Have you had a sin pie? Oh, the way he delivered that line. Jesus. Brian, what do you say to the nice boys and girls and Adam?
Good night, nice boys and girls and Adam.
There we go. And incidentally, yes, a happy Christmas to all of you at home.
You've got to fight for what you want, for all that you believe. It's right to fight for what we want, to live the way we please. As long as we have done our best, then no one can do more. And life and love and happiness are well worth fighting for. They're well worth fighting for.
What is it with you and goats, Purcell? Dear God.